This is the Limb Lengthening and Reconstruction Society podcast, Distractions, exploring the science, innovation, and people transforming limb deformity and reconstruction. LLRS is thankful for its podcast industry partners, Diamond Level, Orthopediatrics, and Garnet Level, Smith & Nephew. In this episode, Dr. Mitchell Bernstein welcomes his guest, our 2026 annual meeting's Alessandro Codavilla guest speaker, Harley Pasternak.
Hi, how are you? Harley Pasternak.
How are you?
Nice to have you here. How you doing?
Fantastic.
Listen, I want to thank you very, very much for being here. Seriously, I know you're a very busy person. Let me just introduce you to our audience. Harley Pasternak is a husband, father of three, two girls and a boy, celebrity personal trainer, commercial gym designer, best-selling author, New York Times, and by the way, I got some inside scoop on Instagram, which I'm not part of. Soup? Like, what's the story with the current soups, funny faces, and the chef move? What's gotten you into cooking?
The way I learned how to cook was with a blender. You know, when I was young, my mother didn't trust me with an open flame and an element and knives. So she got me a blender when I was young, and I was able to make smoothies in the blender, and then I make dips in the blender, and then I learned how to make soups in a blender. So that was the way I learned how to cook. And as I've kind of navigated my way through the world of trying to inspire people to make healthy food choices, the number one reason they give for not having time to cook is, or to cook, eat well, is time. They don't have time. So there's nothing faster than just using a blender. There's less to clean up. There's no skill required. And it's a great way to sneak healthy ingredients into your daily life. And I wrote a book called The Body Reset Diet, which was I think it was the top selling blender cookbook of all time. And I had a blender on the market called the Harley Pasternak Power Blender, and blending was a big part of my life. And so occasionally I post recipes using a blender, and one particular recipe of a green soup from my book got viral. I think it was 7 or 8 million people engaged with it. And it doesn't matter what I've accomplished in my life or what I've done. People see me and they're like, "You're the soup guy." And I guess that's good. At least I'm known for something, not
I,
something positive.
I think, like I gotten into fitness recently. We're going to get into that, but I have to say you've been quite consistent with this message, and you're pretty OG when it comes to that. You've been talking about this fitness and eating healthy for a long time, and you've been pretty classic, no, with it. You never pushed anything really aggressive in terms of a diet, right?
I mean,
Like
this is
like like extreme,
1992.
like extreme diets.
No, I've always been a voice of moderation, of balance, of, coming from the academic world. I still teach at University of Toronto. So I'm still tethered to evidence-based knowledge. And so as a result, I've never espoused any extreme or radical diets. I've never hopped on the low carb, I never hopped on the raw, the vegan, the plant, any of these diets that remove entire food groups I've never supported. And so I guess that's why I'm in my 35th year of doing this. And yeah, haven't lost people's respect yet.
So let me get the context why we're talking. So you're gonna be our Alessandro Codavilla and wellness speaker at our annual Limb Lengthening Reconstruction Society meeting in July 2026 in Montreal. And again, thank you for coming to speak to 200 high-level surgeons. So let's talk. Let's just give the audience. I mean, that's the point of speaking to you today, about a little bit about why I wanted you to come and what you're gonna do for surgeons. So why should surgeons care about fitness?
Surgeons are busy saving lives or improving quality of life, but at the same time, they don't take care of theirs. There's a massive burnout rate. There's a plethora of of orthopedic issues, cardiovascular issues. The lifestyle of a surgeon is not conducive to live a healthy lifestyle sometimes. Lack of sleep, stress, poor nutrition, the biomechanics of standing over a patient for prolonged periods of time. So I think if you see your body as the tool of your work, it's important to take good care of it. And just as a farmer takes care of their tractor, or a pilot takes care of an airplane and makes sure everything's maintained and given the best fuel, I think surgeons definitely need to look within and prioritize proactively taking care of their sleep, their diet, their muscular skeletal strength before they have to. And I think that's important, getting ahead of it before you need to get behind it.
By the way, we did not. I really respect your answer, and I'm freaking out a little bit. We did not speak before this podcast, but like you just said what I was going to ask you. Could we say then it's part of my professional competency, I'm not going to swear, to effing take care of my body? If it, like you said, it's a tool. I mean, that's a good quote. It's a tool, right? My performance is partly based on how my hands work, what kind of proprioception I have. So would you say it's my responsibility professionally to take care of my body?
Yeah, I think the medical training in the classic sense is designed to abuse medical students and residents in some way, to normalize unhealthy behaviors almost as a badge of honor. I think that the burnout is inevitable. If you look at other professions, that the wear and tear on both your physical structure and your mind, with the amount of stress that you have, one small move, you make a bad decision, yet somehow sleep deprivation is not only okay as a physician or a resident, it's actually it's part of the job. And when we're sleep deprived, not only do we have a tougher time making good decisions, recall, our eye-hand coordination suffers. So that's one big thing. It affects metabolic health, our own metabolic health as a surgeon with metabolic health. Um, uh, Psychological. I mean, there's forms of trauma that some surgeons have talked about having from extreme prolonged procedures. Standing over someone for 6, 7, 8 hours. I mean, how long? What's the longest you've
I was
ever
just
done a
gonna say
surgery?
my I mean I do long surgeries too. My good friend and colleague's a spine surgeon, and he's like he had like you I mean you just said it. He's developed radiculopathy and neck pain, and you're really hunched over. You're the patient's prone, and you're standing over the patient, and we don't really necessarily focus on ergonomics so much in the OR. Um, so
I think
yeah.
that it's a separate conversation, but as robotics become more commonplace for certain kinds of surgeons, I think that will save at least the cervical spine of a lot of surgeons, the lower back of a lot of surgeons. Using robotics will hopefully help them over time, but obviously not all kinds of surgery can do robotics. But it's tough. The lifestyle, the amount of surgeons I know that deal with sleep issues, and so deal with cervical issues, lose sensation in their hands because of cervical issues. Become addicted to pain medication to manage their own pain from all of the years of standing awkwardly over a patient. So I think the need to get ahead of it, and I think it should be taught in med school early on, not just how to take care of other people's health, but as a physician, specifically as a surgeon. And I think my brother, one of my brothers is a surgeon. um, it should be taught in your residency program when you become a surgeon. Before you learn how to take care of someone else, you need to take care of yourself. And I think when you're on a commercial airplane, you hear the announcement in case of a cabin pressure emergency, an air mask falls from the sky, put it on yourself first before you help someone else. And so this is a good opportunity for surgeons out there and the ones coming to hear the talk about being proactive in the habits that you have control over in your life to become a healthier human being before you become a healthier surgeon.
I don't want to talk too much today because it's a teaser, but I have a couple check marks, and then we're going to shut this down because, like you said, I think people are going to be really excited to come listen to you and hopefully this podcast. You think there'll be more than 15 people listen to this thing? What do you think? Anyway, we'll see.
It depends. I mean, if we
Well,
do it
if we use your if you by the way, if you promote this thing, maybe we can get some traction here at our society. So okay, so listen, I got home today at 5 o'clock. I wanted to do some workouts, but I knew I was going to talk to you at 6. I didn't want to be late. So I missed the workout. I'm like, I'm going to work out after the podcast with Harley. So you talked about this with smoothies and breakfast, making like there's everyone has time for breakfast. Everyone has time for fitness, theoretically. So what's the biggest mistake high performing, because you deal with not just surgeons, you deal with a lot of high performing humans. What's the biggest mistake we make when it comes to fitness in terms of lack of time or some other reason? What do you think?
I think number one, this idea that you need to have a large block of time in order to accomplish something for your body. You don't. I mean, I strength train 25 minutes each time. I don't strength train for an hour. This idea we have to do more, more is somehow better. The idea that it needs to be painful is definitely a mistake a lot of people make. No pain, no gain. That's just not the case. That you need to suffer during the workouts. You need to be dripping in sweat and you can barely talk and huff and puff. Absolutely. Not only is it not necessary, but it's actually counterproductive for a lot of what you're trying to accomplish with your health. That there's nothing feels as good as skinny. So the idea of starving yourself is something that is not a good idea. If you don't eat throughout the day and then you gorge at night, somehow that's going to be better for you. We know definitively that intermittent fasting is no healthier for you at all. It's about what you've eaten over the course of the day and how much you've eaten, whether you eat it all at once or whether you eat it over 6 meals. That's the most important thing. That you can go sleep deprived all week and somehow make up for it on the weekend. That's not a thing either. So I think there's a lot of mistakes we make that are simple fixes that if you just, your approach is a little bit different, I think it can be very helpful.
Minimum effective fitness plan. Like what are like 2 to 3 things we
I
should be
tell everyone to
doing?
get an activity tracker, whether it be an Aura, a Fitbit, a Garmin, a Whoop, something that can keep track of how much you move or you don't move. I think it's in order to tell someone how to change what they're doing, I need to know what they're currently doing. So it's a great measure, and empirical data tells us what we need to do and what we need to do better or less or more of. So trying to hit at least 10,000 steps a day of movement. It doesn't have to be at once. You don't have to huff and puff. You don't have to sweat. You don't have to put on leggings and running shoes. But I think a comfortable footwear does help. I think sleep is massive. The goal is at least 90 minutes of deep sleep and at least 90 minutes of rapid eye movement per night. That changes with age, it changes with injury, it changes with a lot of other things. But to be able to wear a tracker as well to keep track of that and modify the variables to help you achieve that. I think try and follow the path, PATH, when it comes to food. So every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you're going to have P in the word path is a
I'm like
palm of
getting nervous as you talk to see if I'm doing this. Okay, go on. Go ahead.
a palm of carbohydrates. So tubers like sweet potatoes, potatoes, lentils, legumes, high fiber fruits, whole grains, rice, quinoa, oats, millet, amaranth, teff, barley, farro. That's P in the word path. A stands for all the vegetables that you want. T is for thumb, the mass of your thumb of healthy fat, nuts, avocado, seeds, olives. And H, the letter H, which is for your hand, at least the mass of your hand of protein. So chicken, fish, egg whites, Greek yogurt. And so you follow the path each meal, get at least 10,000 steps a day, try and go to bed a bit earlier and get a better quality of sleep. And we're going to talk about that during the meeting. And I think those are the things to really focus on. And the last is strength training, at least 90 minutes a week of strength training. And that can be 7 15-minute workouts. It can be, five 18-minute workouts. It can be 3 30-minute workouts, but at least that much of strength training per week.
Okay, last question-ish. Last question, because we're talking about strength training. What about Peloton and what about spinning? I was a big I started finally listening to you and my wife, who's been telling me for years to do strength training, like post your chain stuff. I've been loving spinning. So what's your feeling on Peloton, specifically spinning? Um,
I think first of all, any movement is better than no movement. So that's the first thing. And if that's the only form of movement that you want to do, that's better than not moving. I'm not a fan of biking, sitting, hunching over. We spend too much of our day sitting, and for that to be your form of physical movement throughout the day, it's continued to be sitting and leaning forward. I don't love the resistance training part of spinning is not only superfluous, useless, it can actually be harmful. Um, and when you lock your feet in pedals and you're grinding away, I mean, I'm sure you see this. There are people that have leg length imbalances. A lot of us, scoliosis, injury history, a dominant side neurologically, and so no one's pedaling 50% left foot, 50% right foot. And you're probably, let's say you're using 55, 45, and that 55 becomes 56, becomes 57, and the 45 becomes 44, 43. And over time, the side that's doing 60% of the work, the wear and tear on those joints becomes real, and then you start grinding down your hip and grinding down that knee, and so you end up with injury. So I'm not a big fan of um, of doing any form of exercise in a repetitive manner where you're unable to tell which side is doing more work and you're allowed to have that dominant side take over. So for those three reasons, I'm not a big fan of spinning. I'm not a big fan of Soul Cycle. But if it brings you joy and that's the only thing that you want to do, then great.
and then finally, so strength training, what are specific like areas as a kinesiology person, like what are we supposed to be working on as surgeons? And I guess you'll
I
go
think
over this at the meeting.
focusing on your posterior chain. I mean, push-ups and bicep curls and bench press aren't going to help you be better at your job. And I think focusing on your rhomboids, focusing on your triceps over your biceps, focusing on your spinal erectors over your rectus abdominis, focusing on your glutes and your hamstrings over your quads. All of these things really strengthening your posterior chain is going to help undo a lot of the hunching and lurching that you do, and hopefully bring you back into that natural anatomical position.
Okay, Harley, I appreciate the quick podcast and I appreciate your time. I know you're very busy. Thank you very much for being with me today, and we look forward to seeing you in Montreal.
Merci, à bientôt, la prochaine fois.
See you.